Hello, Max here, and while we still all have access to the open beta, I wanted to talk a little bit about team composition. This is a very interesting, ever-evolving topic that we will probably release videos for regularly as things change and develop. There is always going to be lots of varying opinions on team composition. For example, last night I was in a game with a couple of friends and we loaded onto Lijiang Tower, a control map. I locked in Tracer because I love her, although when she talks I have to pretend that's not really her voice. Someone else on the team also locked in Tracer. Everything was looking good until another player on the team questioned the second Tracer pick. We asked them why this was a problem and they just said, easy lose. Now anyone that has followed any high-level competitive mode streamers or watched some of the Gosu Gamers weekly tournaments knows double Tracer on control maps is about as try-hard as it gets. This player wasn't very nice in how they chose to communicate their distaste for the double Tracer. In fact, they were a bit of a dick, so we just ignored them and played the game. I'm not proud of this, but after we 2-0'd the map and I'd grabbed myself a 17-player kill streak, we couldn't resist saying something. Okay, I'm a little proud of it. Now, my ego aside, I'm not trying to undermine this player's lack of knowledge for questioning the double Tracer pick. No matter how rude they were about it, you cannot expect people to know this kind of stuff when the game isn't even out yet, and no one in that match was even over level 20. But I want to point out that Overwatch is at its core a first-person shooter and skill is a huge factor. Tracer is a high skill cap hero, so this player was probably in games with double Tracer that went horribly wrong, but that's down to the skill of the players. I say all of this because you need to take everything in this video with a pinch of salt. Don't go raging at someone in Hero Select because they've picked Zenyatta as the team's only healer. Until you get out there and start trying to crush the hopes and dreams of your enemies, you don't know how it's going to go. That Zenyatta could be a god, or heaven forbid I might be wrong in my opinions here. Just remember, everything discussed is assuming close to equal skill on both teams and a proper understanding of the heroes. Right, now that I've got that long ego-filled disclaimer out of the way, let's get into team composition. In this first video on the subject, I'm just going to talk rough ideas and things to consider when building a team in general. If you guys think it would be good to discuss this on a map-by-map basis in the future, then let me know in the comments. As I'm sure you have heard, or maybe even logically concluded yourself from the hero roles of offense, defense, tank and support, that you want your team to consist of at least one tank, at least one support and a mixture of DPS to suit the needs of the map or to contest the enemy team's setup. I personally think, as a rule of thumb, double support with 1 or 2 tanks and 2 or 3 DPS is much stronger, but when queuing solo or with 1 or 2 friends, this isn't always possible and by no means has to be done to win. First, we're going to break down 1 support, 1 tank and 4 DPS and which heroes you should be looking at in this kind of setup. When you only have 1 support and 1 tank, you need those roles to be filled by heroes that are primary in that role. For support, healing is king. If the enemy have a healer and you don't, they are just going to poke you out with chip damage or win any larger scale engagements with their massive survivability ultimates. The current king and queen of healing supports are Lucio and Mercy. Symmetra doesn't do healing and Zenyatta cannot keep up with their healing per second outside of his ultimate. These guys are much more hybrid secondary supports. Zenyatta is an offensive support and Symmetra is a defensive support. If you only have 1 support on your team, try to make it a Mercy or Lucio. A primary tank is a hero who can protect the team. For this, they need a way of preventing damage and some form of crowd control. Reinhardt is the only hero who fills both criteria, but I feel there is a lot more flexibility in the solo tank role than there is in the solo support. Reinhardt is definitely god tier, but Winston and possibly Zarya can be perfectly acceptable solo tanks too. They both have the ability to protect their team and be a huge threat. Roadhog has the large problem of being a gelatinous ultimate battery for the enemy, and while his hook is fantastic crowd control, it is shut down by any kind of shield or barrier. D.Va, you could argue, fills the primary tank criteria with her defense matrix and the knockback component of her boosters, but in practice these abilities are too weak when filling the role of the team's sole protector. If you only have 1 tank, try to make it a Reinhardt, Winston or Zarya, but Zarya is weaker against organised teams that can focus her down. If we open things out to double support and double tank, things get a lot more interesting. We can start building some powerful synergies and secondary hybrid heroes can really start to shine. In the support spots, you still want at least 1 primary healer, so make sure to still lock in a Mercy or Lucio. Now the second support spot is open to any of the other supports depending on the situation. Having both Lucio and Mercy will make your team a lot more durable, and you could even double up on Mercy or Lucio, but do remember Lucio's auras don't stack. The crazy synergies start coming in when you pair a primary support with a hybrid support. Mercy and Symmetra is a great combo if the objective is far from your team's spawn room. Together they will almost completely negate any team deaths with Resurrect and Teleporter. If you want pushing power, Lucio and Zenyatta can speed boost your team to the objective and keep everyone alive with Transcendence and Sound Barrier. Mercy and Zenyatta or Lucio and Symmetra are also perfectly fine combinations. If your team is running double tank, you once again still want at least one primary tank, but there is little value in running double Reinhardt unless you're trying for a very specific team composition. With 2 tanks on the team, Reinhardt is still god tier and great when paired with any other tank. However, he is now no longer the only god. Double Winston is incredibly powerful, as is double Zarya. In fact, as long as you have at least one of these primary tanks on the team, any combination of 2 tanks have their strengths. Roadhog is the more powerful defensive secondary tank, and D.Va is much more offensive. If you're wondering why I haven't discussed damage dealers in this video, I feel it is a huge topic that cannot be covered in only one video, as there is so much to consider. It all depends on which map you're currently playing, what area of that map you're currently fighting in, and which heroes the enemy are currently using. All these factors can have an effect on which supports or tanks you play, but I feel it is a lot less of a concern. And that about wraps up this first look at team composition. I will stress once more that this is only my initial opinion and is by no means definitive. I encourage you all to experiment and try different things. Let me know in the comments what you discover is working for you. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, please let me know by hitting that like button and subscribe for more Overwatch content. Take it easy, and I'll see you soon.
Play of the game.
Drop the beat. It's time.